Coming up on Tech News Today, you don't need to read terms of service anymore. There's a website that'll do it for you. Probably better than you do it anyway. Also, Microsoft Surface priced cheap, maybe, and the prettiest app shop ever. All that and more coming up.
Netcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by Cachefly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, August 14th, 2012. Tech News Today is brought to you by ShareFile. Enhance your workflow, send files of almost any size easily and securely with ShareFile by Citrix. Try ShareFile today. For a 30-day free trial, go to sharefile.com, click the radio microphone, and enter the promo code TNT. And by Ford. Ford invites us tech geeks to join the conversation, submit ideas, and grab a Tech Geek badge at social.ford.com. Welcome to Tech News Today. I'm Tom Merritt.
I'm Sarah Lane.
I'm Iyaz Akhtar.
And I'm Jason Howell.
And this is the show where we keep you up to date on the most important stories in the tech world, starting off each time with the top 10 stories of the day in the news fuse.
Play.
All right, fans, get ready to start spinning the numbers. Gartner released their worldwide end-user sales figures for mobile phones. Android led the way for operating systems, with 64% market share, followed by iOS, Symbian, and RIM. Samsung spent its second quarter as king of manufacturers with 21.6% of the worldwide market, followed by a declining Nokia, then Apple, and ZTE.
No one can seem to stop talking about the Surface.
Hey, did you hear
but
about
at
Surface?
what cost?
Surface, yeah.
Surface.
How much does it cost?
No, seriously, people just want to know how much it's going to cost.
Yeah, how much?
Well, according to an anonymous source, a meeting was held at Microsoft's recent Tech Ready 15 conference with some interesting launch deals, like the Surface for Windows RT tablet will be launching on October 26th for $199.
No.
That's impossible.
That's an anonymous source, but that's what we're hearing.
That's probably going to be wrong. The Apple versus Samsung case of awesomeness unveils all kinds of things. Today's revelation is that Microsoft licensed several Apple iPhone and iPad patents with the stipulation that Microsoft could not build clones of any type. The deal is part of a cross-licensing agreement, details of which are not available.
Judge Lucy Koh would like this first of her Apple-Samsung trials to reach closing arguments by Tuesday. Apple rested their case yesterday, and Samsung has begun its attempt to show prior art. One of the tidbits Iyaz just mentioned was the fact that cross-licensing deal prevents cloning. Samsung moved for the whole trial to be tossed, but Judge Koh declined. She must have been really tempted, though. Like, yeah, let's just end this now.
That's what she wanted.
It really is.
RIM is almost ready to license the new BlackBerry 10 OS to other manufacturers. At least that's what CEO Thorsten Heinz told shareholders last month in a meeting in Ontario, Canada. Now the platform is in the final stages of testing, and RIM is considering who might be poised to license it. Maybe your new car? Quote, QNX is already licensed across the automotive sector. We could do that with BB10 if we chose to, said Heinz in a recent interview at Bloomberg. The platform can be licensed.
Kaspersky wants you. The folks at Kaspersky are asking the general public to help solve the mystery of Gauss's encrypted warhead. The lab has not been able to break the encryption and has made available all of the information it has in an effort to figure it out. The Gauss spyware targeted bank accounts to capture login credentials. If that sounds like your kind of thing, we'll have a link in the show notes.
Are you tired of lying?
Oh,
lying,
so tired.
Liars.
I can't keep them straight.
I enjoy
all
lying.
you people who say, oh, yeah, I read the terms of service. I agree to all those things in this new piece of software. Well, forget it. Want to be sure you're not agreeing to forfeiting your kidneys without wading through all that legalese? Check out TOS-DR. The project at TOS-DR.info is the latest attempt to crowdsource translations of terms of service and tip you off when there may be troubling language. Now, the site is pre-alpha, folks, so go easy on it. It's still it's getting started.
ARM and Global Foundries have entered into a deal to deliver 20-nanometer ARM chips on FinFET transistors. The agreement includes graphics processors like Mali that are critical to mobile devices. ARM exec Simon Segars says that the company will develop a platform of ARM artisan physical IP, such as standard cell libraries, memory compilers, POP IP solutions designed to boost system performance and power efficiency for smartphones and tablets, and ultra-thin notebooks and stuff that hasn't been invented yet. And cats.
Cats. Malaysians are staging a one-day online blackout in order to protest changes to the Evidence Act, which they say restricts free speech online. Critics charge that the new language in Amendment 114A means that anyone can initiate legal or criminal action against social network users, website owners, mobile device owners, or Wi-Fi network service providers over content posted by other individuals. In fact, so in other words, Malaysia going against the grain, saying you're responsible for everything your users do instead of the opposite.
Bloomberg reports that Michael Dell is a dad. No, wait, that's not the whole story. Bloomberg reports that the Twitter account of Alexa Dell, daughter of Michael Dell, has been closed after she published all kinds of location information about the family's vacation. Information like flight arrival times, GPS references, and more were posted online. Images of the vacation on other sites are gone. Bloomberg guesses this was a move for security. Neither Dell, the company, nor the family has publicly commented.
All right, this episode of Tech News Today brought to you in part by Citrix and ShareFile. In business, you're constantly collaborating with colleagues. You got all kinds of files, things like spreadsheets, presentations. You got to spread them around. You got lots of people who want to look at them, but you want to do it securely. You want to make sure only the right people are looking at them. That's why we recommend ShareFile by Citrix, the easy-to-use business solution that allows you to exchange files quickly and securely. Share specifically how your files are going to be seen. Share specifically to the people that you want to see them and know when they've seen them. That's the key feature for me. I've been able to say, like, hey, did you check that file? Yeah, no, you didn't. Maybe you should check it now. And you're sure, because Citrix has been doing this for decades now, you're sure that they know what they're doing on the back end. They've got good encryption. With ShareFile, you can send files of almost any size with no bounce backs, control who has access to your files, and the level of permission that they have. Syncs automatically, so you and your team always have the most updated materials, and you can access ShareFile from anywhere, your laptop, your tablet, your smartphone. You can work on the go. I want you to try ShareFile with our special offer. Sign up today, receive a 30-day free trial. Go to sharefile.com, click on the radio microphone, and enter the promo code TNT. Remember, visit sharefile.com, type in that promo code TNT. And we thank Citrix for their support of Tech News Today. All right, joining us today, Justin Robert Young, host of NSFW Show right here on TWiT and the Weird Things podcast at weirdthings.com. Thanks for joining us, Justin.
Indeed. I am happy to be back.
And we also have a guest for our first story. We mentioned in the news fuse that TOS Dr website, Hugo Ra, project lead for TOS Dr. Thank you for joining us from halfway across the planet.
Thank you for inviting me.
Now Hugo, over at TOS Dr, you have a site where you have kind of made badges to explain what exactly terms of service are. They look a lot like the permissions that Twitter asks for when you actually try to attach an account there. What was your idea when you're the project lead on TOS Dr? What was your idea in the presentation of the information?
Oh, the original inspiration for presenting the information actually comes from the washing machine labels. In Europe, when you go and buy a washing machine, you get A to E labels depending on several factors like electric consumption, environment, damages, etc. So this was actually the inspiration from Michel from Unosted.
So you looked at a washing machine and that's how you got the ratings? Okay, that explains it. I mean, so you have from Class A to Class E. Class A is a very good terms of service for a customer. Class E, very bad. You have also color codings. So this is an effort that's not just led by you. You have opened this up to the public with the Google Groups, correct?
There's the Google Group, there's a GPL code, which is free software code available. All the data is published under Creative Commons licenses, so it's all open data and free software. The Google Group is where the discussions and the consensus building happens, because the main idea is to have a peer review system, like transparency and allowing inclusive discussions, because it's all about raising debates and raising awareness. So Google Group is only one part of the picture.
How else can people get involved?
They can get involved in several ways. If you have, I don't know, if you go to a website and you see that it's not up there and you're wondering what the terms are like, you can just, one way of contributing is actually giving the links of where the terms of service are, so we can start archiving them. There is the EFF project called TOS Dr, which aims at creating archives of terms and on a regular basis, so they can track changes. So that's one first thing. Then the other thing is, of course, contributing. So just have a quick read of the terms, and anything that's raised your suspicion or anything you think is good. If you have anything which is a bit difficult to understand, you can start an email for each of these points, reference the source, give a quote, give your opinion, and that's how it starts. People can then discuss about the points. So that's one thing, it's contributing of analysis. The other thing we need is actually people with legal knowledge to participate in discussions and give counter opinions and give some more subtle expertise. And also, finally, people can contribute if they have skills at JavaScript, because it's all JavaScript and HTML code.
Now, there have been projects like Ulilizer in the past that attempt to just sort of analyze, you paste in the terms of service and it tells you things automatically. But what you're doing sounds more like a wiki type approach, where the folks who use it can contribute back and identify things. How do you determine whether it gets shown to an end user? If I want to like click on the Amazon terms of service, how do I know that somebody didn't game the system and tell me something that's not true? Because I don't know the law.
Right. So that's why we make sure that everything is really transparent and public. Everything, all the discussions at some point have to go to the mailing list, which is open for anyone to read and open for anyone to discuss on. So it's all a matter of transparency and openness to keep everyone's opinion under scrutiny, and everyone is accountable for what they say. Accountable in the sense of we know who said what, and in the end, you can trust us, or you can say, well, I think they're wrong, and then you can just start the code and, fork it and make a competitive competing project.
Is there an editor like in Wiki that decides if there's two disputing camps on something that makes the call, or how do you resolve those kinds of community disputes?
Well, the good thing is that we are dealing with legal cases here. So sometimes there is stuff which people will say which just doesn't make sense. Like someone just said, you say in your website that Facebook requires users to give their legal name. Well, I didn't give my legal name, so you're wrong. So, yeah, no.
So, therefore, I don't have to follow your terms. Yeah, I get that.
Now, Hugo, you guys are getting a lot of press today. Now, this site isn't officially launching until when?
That's difficult to say. The initial plan was to have something ready in September. By ready, I mean something where the rating system is solid enough and where we have enough data to be able to compare services, because it's very difficult when you start, because you don't have enough comparison. Like some of the differences are very subtle. So if you don't have enough data to make subtle ratings, it's difficult. So you have to start somewhere. So sometimes you make mistakes. Like right now, the cookies rating is a bit. We have to do it again. Know that we have more data about how cookies are dealt with in terms of service. We have more ways to compare how different services do it, and then we think, okay, what is good for the users, what is not, what people think, and I think somewhere in September we will get there.
Sounds great. Hugo of the project lead for TOS Dr.
Can I ask one question?
Go for it.
Do you guys have terms of service to edit TOS Dr?
We have disclaimer of it's not legal advice. Like we just make this precise, but otherwise we haven't started writing terms of service because, well, sometimes it's not needed.
Okay, cool.
Hugo, while the project lead for TOS Dr, Where can people find what you're doing online?
Well, there's the GitHub and there's the Git repository for TOS Dr, and there is the Google group, and that's pretty much it.
TOS-dr.info, the place to go. And people can use this and contribute it, and the more people do, the better, right?
Of course.
Excellent. Thank you, Hugo, for joining us. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, let's move on to...
Let's take a walk.
Where to?
The rumor mill.
I think that's in Kentucky.
I love it here. Actually, it's a very infuriating place to be. September 12th.
Horrible hours, working conditions.
You never know who to believe.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Your
Directions are very
coworkers could just
confusing.
stab you in the back at any. September 12th is the rumored iPhone announcement date. Now, this is just a rumor, although it's such a strong rumor that TechMeme actually has a placeholder for it in its calendar.
I noticed that too, right? And it says rumored.
Right, exactly.
But they're like September 12th.
Exactly,
We all
but
know it.
they don't put a lot of rumors in there.
Or
So this
Apple, I'd be like, this is
a
going
really
on
big
September
rumor.
13th, just to piss you all off.
Exactly. So a lot of the, if that is indeed the date, a lot of the blogs are coming out with their anonymous sources that have more information than ever. iMore is one of those. Now, iMore has some sources that they say, while anonymous, have proven to be right in the past. So these are their strong sources, say that U.S. pre-orders are going to begin the same day. So
Right.
September 12th is the announcement, pre-orders, same day. That's different than how it went last year, I think.
For the 4S. 4S was like a week or so.
I don't even think it was a week. I think it was 3 days later.
3 days?
It's
But
been
it
getting
was
closer and closer
announcement
every time.
beginning of the week, and then pre-orders started that Friday, I think. That was last year. But same day can really help, obviously, for momentum.
It might push you into ordering when you otherwise wouldn't because you know it's going to sell out really quickly.
That too.
Yeah.
And you have less time to go, well, let me really
Do
think
I
about
want
the
the
fact that
Samsung?
I
No,
have
everyone's-
$500 right now.
Everyone's just going to work themselves into a Viking-like berserker frenzy as the keynote is going on.
iMore has some more rumors. Release 9 days later. That would fall on September 21st, if, again, the 12th is when the announcement would be, with international markets starting to roll out the first week of October. So it's closing the gap between finding out what's going on and actually being able to get the stuff in our hot little hands. Of course, we've also got the 9-pin dock connector rumors for iPhone. Will we also hear about the same 9-pin dock connector for pretty much the whole line that they're refreshing? iPods, iPad mini? If so, it'll be like a dock connector extravaganza.
Would it be
The
a
year of the dock.
Dock party!
Right, yeah.
would it, or a
9 pins, 9 pins.
Dockpocalypse?
Ooh, that's good. I like that. Well, it depends on
Dock
how you
Knight
feel
Rises?
about
Well,
9
right.
pins.
You pick your side. Yes.
Might be the rapture. A source also tells Boy Genius Report that AT&T is planning their iPhone launch the 3rd to 4th week of September. Now, if you believe the iPhone calendar rumors of the pre-orders starting to be available on the 21st, this does fall in line. That same source for Boy Genius says that AT&T will have all hands through October. Basically, that means people aren't taking long vacations and things like that. They're all there. Second AT&T source is confirming to the blog that a large training event for regional employees at AT&T has been rescheduled from the first week of October due to a conflict with a huge announcement. Now that, I mean, there might have been a
Somebody's birthday.
Change to the
there might have been a
401k.
training event that was rescheduled for all sorts of reasons. So this could be coincidental, and it could be exactly for this. But I don't know. These dates seem to match up pretty well for me. I don't think anything's too outlandish here.
Well, they always happen around the same time in the fall, or they have ever since they separated the.
Well, they've
the
always had
iPad and the
iPod
iPhone.
announcements in the fall.
Yeah.
And then they last year moved the iPhone announcement into the iPod announcement, essentially.
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there wasn't so much of an iPod announcement last year, so it was kind of their way of keeping everybody happy for the fall.
It was iPhone 4S
Right.
Siri extravaganza. These seem legit only because they seem to be coming
Seems
from
legit.
seems legit from distribution and retail side. So it's things that theoretically, if they're coming from people being told, "Hey, you need to be here," or these things are coming in, this is when they would start getting an idea of exactly what those numbers were and when they needed to staff up to move this kind of product. So I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense. But what I'm curious about, especially with these 9-pin dock connectors, is usually what we see in terms of form and function with the Apple products over the last couple of years have been the accessories. And I'm very curious to see if and when we will see 9-pin, the 9-pin design reflected in either cases or other
I'm
kind
sure
of things.
people are already working on those.
Yeah, but
normally
they
want to be
alarm
first out of the
clocks,
gate.
Exactly.
External speakers,
But
all that stuff.
I mean, like theoretically, we see that stuff before we see the other products.
Well, some of these rumors are fairly new about the 9-pin. What I hope, I mean, I don't know if I hope, because sometimes Apple has these accessories that aren't necessarily the greatest things in the world, but it would be nice if this really is a refresh across the entire line. So we've got 9-pin connectors that are going to render a lot of our accessories useless, at least for things like iPads and iPhones that we already have, to come out with some pretty cool stuff out of the gate that would also be available.
Well, and they'll sell an adapter. They have to.
They'll sell an adapter, but it would be nice to see some...
They might even package an
some
adapter
sort of
with the new iPhone. Possibly.
I mean,
That's sort of un-Apple.
for free? That is very un-Apple.
Yeah. I mean, I could see it being reasonably inexpensive, like a 15 or $20, but like
$29.99.
I think what you meant to say was reasonably expensive.
Yes.
Yes, I mean, in the grand scale of all things, you know, a something under $25 that would be completely indispensable for people would not seem crazy to me. What I'm curious about with the 9-pin dock is exactly what we get out of it in terms of maybe a faster battery charge, or you know, because I think if we go to a 9-pin thing and we don't see core improvements in how we interact with these devices, it's, you know, kind of like, well, why?
I'm more interested in the idea of them making it available for pre-order the same day it's announced. That would be a big step and a way to rush people, as we said earlier. I personally am sitting here like, well, I'm not sure I'm getting the next iPhone. I need to replace my phone. I'm thinking about getting a Samsung. I'm thinking about getting an Android phone. But if they impress people and say, but you got to order today because otherwise you're going to be waiting weeks, that could go one of two ways. It might kind of rush me into going, okay, fine, I'll get the iPhone. It might have the opposite effect, though. It may say, you know what, I'm still not sure, so I'm going to put it off. Now it's not available for 2 or 3 weeks. I can't wait that long. I'm buying a Galaxy S3.
I mean, that happened with the iPad, right? When they introduced it, they said it's pre-order today, and then me, was in a frenzy. I'm going to buy it right now, because if I wait a day or two, I'm going to have to wait 2 to 3 weeks for it. And that kind of device,
They did it with the Retina Mac, too.
It was a big step up from the last one. And this version of the iPhone, the rumored one, is supposed to be a redesigned, new 9-pin, larger screen, all kinds of fun stuff.
5 rows of apps. 5 rows of apps.
And maybe LTE. So, I mean, this is definitely a step beyond the 4S, and hopefully Serial will be out of beta by then.
We're very happy to introduce a 5th row of apps. We think you're going to really enjoy the extra space. Look at this huge screen.
We've made up 5 apps for no reason.
I know you're kidding, but that sounds pretty spot on.
No, I think it's pretty much dead on. Yeah, I'm not kidding. Actually,
it'll get a big cheer.
Sort of what I.
Oh no, because it'll be the animation of like the screen, like the,
it's still going.
So that's your September, folks. October is going to be all about Microsoft, though. And not only do we hear about this crazy new price tag that Sarah mentioned in the news fuse, but also Microsoft naming some of the Windows RT computer makers.
Right. Now, when Microsoft announced they were coming out with the Surface, people are like, oh, OEMs won't make any Windows machines. And of course they are. They're going to make Windows machines. But the Windows RT machines that are coming are from Samsung, Dell, Asus, Microsoft. That's going to be this year in October. Next year, Acer is going to offer a device. And Toshiba is kind of waiting, kind of see, it's going to monitor market conditions to see if anybody wants to buy it. HP is sticking with x86 for now.
And let me be clear in case people are confused. We're talking about Windows RT, not Windows 8. Toshiba is not saying we're going to wait on making Windows 8 device. They'll make Windows 8 laptops.
Exactly.
Windows RT is the ARM-based.
Yeah, Windows RT is the renamed WOA, if you remember that nickname for a while, Windows on ARM. That's the one that sort of works with, it has the modern UI apps, I guess. What are they called now? They used to be called Metro apps. It has a limited amount of desktop experience. And as we know about the Surface, they're only going to be available at Microsoft stores, right? So, like, oh, there's only a couple of those. Well, don't worry about that, because apparently Microsoft, around holiday season, is going to launch a bunch of pop-up stores in places like, little town called New York City, then Chicago, San Francisco, St. Louis.
Not L.A.
Not L.A., apparently.
But I guess that's because
Miami.
they have actual Microsoft stores down there.
Yeah, there are major stores in, like,
2 of them in Miami.
In permanent
one
locations.
in Miami, one in North Miami.
Really? Well, you got to get those Surfaces out there, and they're going to open up around holiday time. And like Sarah said in the news fuse, that Surface RT or Surface for Windows RT could be $200. That, at that point, to me, sounds like a completely compelling price for a device that may not have the same desktop experience that you would have on a Windows 8 x86 device.
Paul Thurrott says
more compelling
no,
than a Kindle Fire.
Paul Thurrott has said on Windows Weekly these are going to be priced pretty much exactly the same as the iPad.
Well, the question is, what is the iPad Mini? We don't know what that price is going to be. I don't think it's going to be $200.
We don't know that it is, in fact, a thing.
Yes. No, we don't know that it, in fact, is in existence or will be in any time in the future. So, you know, I think what's very curious about this is, especially if this is, you know, $199, like, what does that mean to just the general price of all these kind of tablets and what people expect and what the iPad Mini could possibly be? I mean, if it is $300 and now there are, you know, 3 on some level compelling devices, be it the Kindle Fire, the Nexus 7, and the Surface, you know.
Nexus 7 really seems to have set the bar for the $200 price point. I think that Apple could get away with something a little bit higher because people are used to Apple being a little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily think that that's the right thing for them, but I think that they can go up to maybe even $279 and still sell really well. But I don't think they can go above $300.
Well, Microsoft had said that their devices were going to be priced comparably to other devices. So if that means not only is Microsoft selling it for $200, that would mean that Samsung, Dell, Asus, they would all be selling it around the same price in theory.
Is the Surface a 7-inch or a 10-inch tablet?
The Surface, from when they introduced it, they showed 2 exact same devices, and they were about 10 inches each. Right.
One was Intel-based. One, and the RT is the one we're talking about. That's the one that is supposed to be $199. It's 10 inches. That's not priced the same as competitive 10-inch tablets.
Yeah.
No. Well, this would be a competitive. Well, compared to partners' devices, it wasn't going to be about.
So all the partners are going to sell their 10-inch tablets for $199.
That sounds crazy.
I doubt it.
That'd be
just when you thought they couldn't get more upset with the Microsoft Surface.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's lock them into a basement slashing $199 price point.
If they're not going to, what is compelling about the competitors, really? Again, this is assuming that the Surface works as advertised.
I wonder.
If I was an OEM, I'd be furious.
I wonder if Microsoft and Paul Thurrott are all talking about the Microsoft Surface with Intel that is not going to come out in October, and maybe the RT, because it is lighter weight, it's cheaper. Maybe Microsoft is like, we're gonna slash the crap out of this one and sell it for cheap.
I mean, to the consumer though, what is the difference between an ARM tablet and an Intel?
$199.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, like there's the cheaper one that I want to buy. And then there's the other thing.
To the average consumer. We know there's a big difference.
Oh, sure, yeah. I mean, but like these are consumer devices. There's a reason why Microsoft wants to have more control, and just as Google wanted to have more control on their build, because they want a better final product to get into consumers' hands, because that's what's moving this market. It's what has moved this market with the iPad, and what will continue to move this market if the iPad Mini is a success. And I think having that distinction and an ARM versus Intel distinction for an average consumer, I don't know if that exists in their mind.
Yeah, but the reason why Amazon and Google can price their devices so cheaply is because they have an ecosystem. They're going to sell services on it. What's Microsoft going to get out of these?
The Windows Store.
Just the store?
The one that pissed off Gabe Newell at Valve with the App Store. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, with the RT, which is a more limited piece of equipment, they will have a bigger marketplace. Anybody who buys an RT is going to be buying their software through Microsoft's store.
Now, just so I get this straight, they are only selling the services through Microsoft outlets, right? So that's why they're doing these pop-up stores, and they're selling it online. It's very interesting because, if you look at like what the numbers, according to general estimates, the Nexus 7 has sold 600,000 tablets in July alone. They could move as many as 6 to 8 million after the holidays. Last year at this time, the Kindle Fire, which Amazon has probably the best relationship with consumers in terms of impulse buying electronics, sold 3.9 million. It's I think Google and Microsoft find themselves in interesting positions in terms of having relationships with consumers buying products from them directly, not necessarily involving them. Google obviously has a great relationship with people using their services, but not necessarily buying hardware from them. Microsoft, has, I think, a better relationship in the mind of the average consumer. But I think it's very telling that they want to put this out in pop-up stores and not just make
Well, they also don't want to be having it sit there on the shelf next to all of their vendor partners that are already angry with them. So I think that's another reason that they're limiting it to the Microsoft channels.
But at this point, like, where's the distinction that they draw between, pissing off their
it's in that meeting with the vendors where they're like, don't worry, we're not going to be on the shelf next to you. Sit down. No, don't throw that.
I'm Merritt.
Yeah. All right, let's take a quick break and thank our other sponsor for today's show, Ford. Leo and Iyaz, you recently got to chat with Jim Buskowski about Ford's views on the future of technology and vehicles. What are some of the things you guys talked about?
Basically, their app platform and how much they're developing for it. There's a lot of new things that they couldn't officially tell us about, so I can't say anything right now. But the app, we've seen Ford is really ahead when it comes to the applications that they have in their vehicles, and that's not going to stop. They're going to keep making new applications, and I believe you'll be able to get them soon.
I know Ford Social is their program to kind of get your ideas about what stuff you want in your car, what kind of technology you want in the car. Ford Social is the place where people are going to post those ideas. Social.ford.com. We've seen a few ideas there. Wi-Fi music sharing between Fords, a biodiesel hybrid, automatic sunscreens, a wind turbine under the hood to charge a lithium battery. These are all ideas that are posted up there for you to look at, you to read, and kind of give your feedback. Yeah, I like this idea. Here's a problem with that idea. You can read all these articles. Check out social.ford.com to read more about it. And submit your ideas to Ford and like your favorite ideas. While you're there, be sure to grab your Tech Geek badge. You can also read a blog post that Leo submitted about his discussion with Jim Buskowski. That's all at social.ford.com. Get involved in the conversation. We thank Ford for their support of Tech News Today. And one of the ways you can show your thanks to them for supporting us is by going to social.ford.com and giving some feedback. All right. We can't avoid the Samsung-Apple trial too much, but Apple has rested its case, which means we're about halfway through, right? Halfway point? Roughly.
Halfway there. Living on a prayer, Tom.
Judge Lucico threw out 3 of the world phones from the trial. These are the 3 phones that Apple had said, we want $0 in damages for the infringement on these phones because they were world phones. So they weren't marketed in the United States. Yeah. And that's why the judge said, look, you're not asking for damages. These weren't sold directly by Samsung in the United States anyway. We're throwing those out. Also, Samsung, as I mentioned in the news views, filed a motion to toss the case because they basically said, look, it's obvious Apple hasn't proved their case. Let's toss it out of court on
well, you can't harm them for trying.
On the law.
Shouldn't that be said in every single court trial ever? Like, well, obviously that was terrible, so let's just go home.
Can you explain when that's okay to make that motion and when it's frivolous? Why don't people do it every time?
The standard is just good faith. That's flat out it. So if your attorney can say in good faith.
And I think Samsung and Apple have showed no good faith through this entire trial. And so the judge is like, it's all the same to me.
Well, good faith is technical terms. I don't want to use the common one and the one that's in law.
No, but the judge has basically said, verged on saying you're breaching good faith a couple times.
She's almost put him in contempt for I want to say shenanigans. That's what they're
shenanigans is a good word. Yeah,
that works.
We also had Apple's patent licensing director Boris Texler testifying that Apple and Microsoft have a broad cross-licensing agreement that allows Microsoft to make tablets that use a lot of Apple's design patents, and likewise Apple can do that with Microsoft patents. However, there are limits. There are untouchable patents. I don't like that Apple has a caste system for their patents.
Sure, yeah.
Like that. But those aren't licensed to anyone. And they basically have an agreement that says you're not allowed to make a device that is a clone. Like Microsoft can't come out with the Microsoft Surface and have it look exactly like the iPad.
And maybe you guys can help clear this up for me because I was a little confused reading all the articles about this. Is Samsung saying that they wanted a deal like this, like the deal that that Apple apparently has with Microsoft, but they were not offered that, and that is part of the
Apple's
reason?
trying to prove that they went to Samsung and said, we negotiated with Samsung, but they wouldn't take our offer. Samsung's response is they didn't offer us the design patents. Yeah. They offered us a bunch of other patents, and they overcharged us for it.
And so they're using as proof that Apple has made a deal.
Evidence. Maybe would be a better word.
Okay. They are saying that that Apple made this deal with Microsoft, and so they were acting in bad faith and dealing with them.
Yeah. Apple's just trying to show, hey, we license things when people are reasonable. Look, Microsoft, Apple, Microsoft, we hate each other, right? But that's not what they said in court, obviously.
Testimony.
But, yeah.
We're bringing
now that we've moved on into Samsung's defense, Samsung's part of the trial, or I don't know if who's defense and who's plaintiff in this.
I think
case.
Apple's suing Samsung over the patents.
Because I know there's a countersuit going on at the same time.
The countersuit's by the defendant, which is Samsung, who's suing for other things.
Samsung rolled out 2 prior art demonstrations. One was a bounce-back-like function that was part of Pocket PC's launch tile implementation back in 2004. They had Benjamin Betterson from Zoomobi who designed that on stage. Apple said, look, it doesn't do diagonals. It doesn't do all the bounce-back type things that we do. And then I think the better one was Diamond Touch, multi-touch, by Adam Bogue, who demonstrated it. He testified, I demonstrated this for Apple in 2003, and the key thing here was the tablecloth bounce-back, because it was a table multi-touch, and when you pulled the icons off the side and they disappeared, when you let go, they would bounce back up. That, to me, is very similar to what you see.
And that's why I'm going to say the same thing I say very often. That's why patents are really great, because you can have different methods. This idea that Apple said it doesn't work diagonally, but it works on theirs diagonally, it's this particular method that they're covering. So if Samsung is saying that ours is on a tablecloth and yours isn't on a tablecloth, the Samsung can do that. And Apple could still have a valid patent.
Well,
and that's why
when you say
patents are really
tablecloth,
great.
though, I mean,
you can work around it.
Because it's a larger screen? It's because it's not an actual tablecloth,
no,
right?
No, what I mean is if you write the method in a certain way that you're designing around the patent, right? That's what I'm saying. Like if there's a patent to slide to unlock, but it's really particular on how it works. So the thing is, if you just change 1 or 2 things, you can have your own patent on that too. That's what I'm saying.
That's
about
why
this.
the tablecloth one was compelling to me, because it seems to work exactly the same way. It's just on a larger screen that is down on the floor. Is that enough to make a difference?
It depends on the prior art. There's a very particular test for it, so I'd have to.
Yeah,
brush up on it,
this is not law class.
You can watch
here,
Twill on
All right.
Friday.
Anyway, as we mentioned, Judge Koh wants closing arguments by next Tuesday. Don't forget, on Monday, there's a different Samsung Apple trial over search that starts, presided also by Judge Lucy Koh. She's going to be tired of these companies. Let's talk about something more fun. There's a new way to discover apps on iOS, right, Sarah?
Yes, that's correct, Tom. And in fact, it started on Windows Phone 7 before it came to iOS, which is not something you hear about very often.
So Microsoft had it first.
That's right. Yes, Microsoft won this round. It's called AppFlow. I've got it running on my iPhone. I don't know how well you can see it. You can kind of see it here, but take my word for it. It's very Windows Phone friendly, actually. I'm looking at.
It looks like live tiles, yeah.
Yeah. So if I click into Social Sam here, this is actually not somebody I know. This is what AppFlow has put together.
They named all the genres after people. It's kind of goofy,
because we could all follow each other, but as a new user, you kind of want your app areas to be populated with some good ideas. Yeah. I like social apps, so I've got Instagram Fever. Take shopping to the social level, socialize your dates. Okay, if I clicked into that, I get a little bit more information about the kinds of apps that would help socialize my dates. eHarmony, Zoosk, Date Often. Now, I'm not a real expert in dating apps, so to me, I'm like, even though I'm not actually looking to be dating anybody, I'm very interested in this because it's like, okay, these are a bunch of apps that I haven't heard about. So if I click into eHarmony, for example, then you get what you would kind of get in the App Store itself on iOS. Again, these are iOS apps, but the descriptions are a little bit different, and they also have an area for coverage. So there was some coverage here at Google. There's no actual coverage in this particular app, but let's say Engadget or maybe 140apps.com or a variety of other places that you might actually go to get app information had already covered this app and they liked it, that information would be added into the area. So the whole idea behind AppFlow is, yeah, it kind of looks like Windows Phone, which is interesting, but it's just a way to get out of the App Store interface. You know, I use the App Store a lot because, well, I do shows about apps, but I try to depend on the reviews with a grain of salt at all times. If there are 3,000 reviews and it's got 4 stars, I'm like, well, it's probably legit because enough people are giving it good reviews, so it kind of evens out all the baloney that you sometimes get in good reviews. But it can be hard to discern between all of that stuff. And the App Store can be a mess. It's hard to search. It's not very visual. You know, until we figure out what Apple's doing with Chomp, we don't have that many options right now. So this is a free app. It's app discovery. You can go ahead and, although you can't download from within AppFlow, it'll kick you into the App Store when you're ready to download if you're happy with an app. And yeah, it looks really different. I'm all for app discovery.
I think it looks very, very good. And in downloading it and going through it in preparation for the show, I guess really the question for me is, it's a hard problem because I don't know how I want to discover apps. Like I tend to have done it because we live in a social world where either I'm talking to friends or I'm hearing them on various social networks that they're using things, or I see proof positive that, you know, they are transmitting something with an app. That's how I'll come into it. So it's like, I think it looks cool. I think it's very interesting, but I don't know if I will ever go like, you know what I'm in the market for? Apps. Let me go in my app discovery phase.
do that. I go to the App Store sometimes, like, let me see what's in the charts. Let me see what's new and featured. Let me and I wish it had a better interface sometimes, but it's okay. My problem with this, when I tried it out this morning, was it confused the crap out of me. Like, I launched it, I'm like, ooh, this is pretty. Okay, wait, I have to follow these people. Well, I'm already following these people. I thought these were genres. How do I follow Sarah? I know she's trying out this app. Like, where do I find her? Oh, I'll connect to Twitter. Oh, Twitter doesn't log me in. Now I have to create a user account. Like, it was really confusing for me to figure out how to use it.
I had a bit of the same problem because even though it looks great and the navigation works just fine, it's not intuitive if you're really used to iOS already. Yeah, so this is a very unique app that could prove frustrating.
Absolutely gorgeous, but they need they don't need any extra like graphic design work because I think it's beautiful and it works really well, but I just need to know where to go and what these lists are. How do I have this thing Bucket. I click on Bucket, it's like this bucket is empty. What is Bucket supposed to be?
Bucket is the apps that you've saved, Tom.
When do I do that?
When you like one.
Also, there's a
Put
list.
it in the app bucket.
There was a list for
We all remember that old children's story.
The list for apps you have, it's like, okay, this is going to like look at my phone and tell me, no, I have to add them manually? Am I missing something?
I don't know that AppFlow would have...
Probably doesn't have access.
Yeah,
and I probably don't want
to
it
look
to
at
have
everything
access,
on your
but
phone.
still.
I don't know if you want that, really.
All right.
I think the point is no one's really satisfied with the Apple App Store.
I think, exactly. And I wanted this to be the thing.
Well, we're happy
we've
that
got another
exists,
option, sure.
Right, but it's kind of as user-friendly as like the Dewey Decimal System.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, the best thing that it has is a listing of everything that's there. In terms of getting to it, it's not exactly, intuitive.
F and Dunn says the Bucket is obviously apps you need to download before you die.
Of course, the bucket list.
Yeah.
The bucket app list.
I will say that the most apps
before you kick the bucket. Hey. Sorry.
The most apps that I've downloaded recently from any kind of source was watching the new i5 for iPhone show hosted by someone whose name I can't remember.
Oh, she's a hack.
She's a doll.
But that is a really good show. It's on Mondays.
She's actually a doll. She's animatronic. Let's finish up with the Gartner mobile sales numbers. Bad news globally. Global mobile sales down 2%. Not that much. Down 2.3% to 419 million. Although good news for smartphones. 36.7% of all phones sold in Q2 were smartphones. And that's up 42.7% to 154 million. That is expected to rise. They think the pressure in the market's going to be on feature phones, which everybody's saying, oh, if I'm Nokia, if I'm HTC, I'm gonna try to make feature phones my thing. If I'm RIM, I'm looking at feature phones to bolster my market. That's the market that's having the harder time. That's the market where sales are not improving. Gartner's Q2 sales, as we mentioned in the news fuse, Android leading the way 64%. With 99 million phones sold. iOS maintained its market share. Symbian and RIM pretty much dived. And Bata and Microsoft saw some small gains. On the manufacturing side, as we mentioned, Samsung leading the way, 21.6%. They had the Samsung Galaxy S3 launch in late May. That really juiced their numbers up to 90.43 million. Only their second quarter. Remember, Nokia used to have this top spot every time, and last quarter was the first time they had slipped. They're still sliding, though they're still in second place. LG and RIM also sliding. Apple and ZTE saw some rises. Huawei and TCL saw smaller rises. They're inching up. HTC and Motorola inching down. So I really feel like what we're seeing here is a sea change in manufacturing. We're consolidating this to the operating system being a two-horse race with basically Windows Phone and Bata having a chance on the outside, but a tough hill to climb. And manufacturing, it's Samsung and Apple with some new rising stars like Huawei and TCL and ZTE saying, we're going to get into this game and making phones. But some of the old guard are on their way out.
Yes.
But yeah, just looking at these numbers. I mean, the thing is, this was looking at the Gartner study was looking at just Q2, and everyone is waiting for the next iPhone. So nobody's buying that thing right now. Everyone knows at this point the cycle. So why would you suggest your friends buy that? And Samsung has really done a great job with Android. I mean, don't forget. I mean, this is only a couple years ago. The first version of Android was pretty rough, and it's turned into something really slick over the past couple of years. And even though people hate these skins that go on top of these devices, the Samsung UI is really pretty user-friendly, and this new idea of being designed with, what is it, inspired by water or something like that. All these little gimmicks that they have on their devices actually do make it unique enough that you go, oh, I actually do want a Samsung product. Because even though companies like HTC try to differentiate their products by, they consolidate a bit, no one really knows what HTC has to offer other than that old Sense UI they used to have, that awesome flip clock, right? That's how people remember HTC. All these other companies are struggling, trying to figure out what's the next way to go. RIM is banking on BlackBerry 10 and hoping people pick up on that. Windows will do their push. I mean, Microsoft will do their push with Windows Phone 8. But I would like to see more competition out there, though, just because I don't want the power consolidated in just two companies and then it's being off on the fringe by getting another device that might not have support or carrier support or even app support.
But that's the kind of interesting thing about Android, right? You've got a million options. You want an Android smartphone? Where do we even start? So word gets out that after a while, it's like Samsung's kind of got the best phone. Now, a lot of people really do feel that way. It's not as if they're just sheep following along what the next person said, but that's kind of how these things tend to work. It's like you've got your high-end Android. Like if you want the best Android phone, then you get the Galaxy S3, right? Yeah. That's how a lot of people feel. And then you've got these other manufacturers that, I don't know, provide some stuff. Everybody's got like a little bit of their unique spin on it. But then you have people that complain about bloatware and Android fragmentation, and it just seems to be what naturally happens. So you've got other options, but the cool Android phones happen to be being made by Samsung right now. I mean, public perception, and also because they're really nice phones.
Now, if you want to see something that is more stable, look at the tablet market. IHS iSupply had their figures out. 24.4 million tablets shipped, so less than phones. Apple, 69.6% of the market. Samsung, second, 9.2% of the market, followed by Amazon at 4.2%, and Asus at 2.8%. Note that Google's Nexus 7 came out after the survey period here.
Yeah, I think, to me, that 69.6 number is going to be the benchmark to watch going forward 6 months from now, a year from now, a year and a half from now, as the rise of these $200 tablets and whatever Apple does with the iPad mini, I think will be very, very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of movement there. I don't know which way.
I mean, I'd say I'd be surprised if Apple held 50% in a year, but that iPad mini factored in.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Should it be real?
Should
totally change.
Theoretically, if it does exist, if dry land is not a myth.
That new line of 7 iPads that I just made up could totally change things.
But yeah, I mean, that how much they can hold that number, because we've seen increasingly with, phone OS numbers that they have seen their market share recede, which I don't think that they necessarily care as much, because they're continuing to make, as much money as they are per phone. But it'll be curious. I think it's remarkable that they're still at where they are now, having 3 iterations of the iPad out on the market and possibly another version of it debuting, that they're still at 70% while people continue to pump out these products is really remarkable.
Let's move on to our election coverage. I mean, randomizer.
Randomizer.
The Verge reporting about a Florida political ad. We're gonna get a lot of these, by the way, between now and November. But political attack ad going after a Floridian candidate, Jeff Brandes. He is the incumbent, I believe, for the U.S. House of Representatives, because he supports autonomous vehicle testing in Florida. How dare he?
What? And the problem is that the vehicles are unruly and it'll run over people's lawns.
That's what I thought it was going to be, but it turned out that are we going to play? Are we playing it, Jason?
It up right now.
It turned out that the ad was more about like his priorities are out of whack, because he cares about these crazy driverless cars.
It is also that these cars are going to run over your grandma.
Well, that's right. They have the woman in the walker crossing the street.
Who goes, "Hey, slow down. This is a residential neighborhood.
Don't test driverless cars on the street."
Did you see it? The wheel is going haywire.
Oh, yeah.
There's no one even behind that wheel.
Meanwhile, Meanwhile, the metro area lost 600 jobs, and he's worried about driverless cars.
And basically, it has a quote from Representative Jeff Brandes that he had to convince the legislature that this was not witchcraft. And to be honest, I think it's very interesting. It's good. I throw my support behind St. Petersburg Representative Jeff Brandes that he would continue to make Florida a place where you can test leading-edge technology like self-driving cars. And besides, I mean, anyone who's driven on Alligator Alley, just run self-driving cars up and down there. Who cares? It's a bunch of mosquitoes and an alligator.
It would improve traffic conditions, right? Right?
Yeah.
Driverless cars, I'm thinking. I mean, they've already been tested on the track. That's the silly thing. I mean, now we're just getting into deconstructing.
If it comes down to, listen, anybody who sat through I-4 traffic, going through Orlando knows that it would be great if you were able to throw all these German tourists into self-driving cars, let them get to their hotels in a peaceful and easy way, so they wouldn't stop and break and have you rear-end them because they saw
and you wouldn't be late, and there wouldn't be those lost wages if you're an hourly employee.
Absolutely.
See? Economy will go right up.
They have self-driving cars in Clearwater already, but for an entirely different reason. Let's move on to the calendar.
Only I knew what that meant. SimCity closed beta registrations have begun. If you go to SimCity.com, there's a nice little link right there for closed beta if you want to get in on that. Tomorrow, Adobe is going to disable new installs of Flash on Android. Should we sing the Death March yet, or are we quite ready for that?
We were talking to the guy who built or was the architect of the streaming coverage for BBC yesterday, and he was pointing out to Samsung that they were going to be giving out phones to people in the Olympic bags that wouldn't be able to play the BBC stream because it's in Flash. So, the rest of the web hasn't quite caught up yet.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sprint Motorola Photon Q4G LTE, say that 3 times fast, is launching on August 19th. And that's the calendar, Tom.
Let's see what's incoming.
Incoming message.
Christian says, yesterday you mentioned Google exempting YouTube because of all the DMCA takedown requests there would downrank. We did not say they would exempt YouTube. That is a misstatement. And if we did say that, I apologize. I don't think we did. What they said was that YouTube, Tumblr, Twitter, sites like that would have other signals that would compensate for the large amount of takedown requests. Anyway, he said, this made me think of a way this can be used as an attack mechanism. Say I wanted to wipe a competitor out of search results. I could upload a bunch of my own content, then file a takedown notice. This would generate lots of legitimate takedowns, and Google would downrank them. I win at SEO. Yes, this would be fraud, but Google's algorithm can't know that as long as I do it right. And as long as I'm committing fraud, I might as well spoof my MAC address and use Tor over someone's public Wi-Fi. So in other words, he masks himself to upload the infringing content, then as himself goes and says, hey, somebody's got infringing content there. And then Google, if it's not YouTube or Tumblr or Twitter, possibly would take the site down. I think what Google's response would be is like, no, our algorithm can compensate for whether the site is dedicated to infringement or not. But I think a lot of people look at this and say, yeah, you could probably game the system.
Yeah, once you set up a bunch of rules, people just try to bend them and bend them and bend them, then game them.
That's the hacker mentality.
Seems legit.
Next email from Niranjan, who writes, I have some comments on Google Motorola layoff. Some hardware portion of Motorola retained with Google for streamlined products in the future. I was wondering of iPhone competition, not from Android, but from Google Chrome. We know that Chrome hasn't picked up speed in Chromebook sales, and the cost doesn't seem to justify the purchase of Chromebooks. Google may possibly strike a deal with Google Chrome and Motorola working together and bring out awesome Chrome phones. I suspect some portion of Motorola, the phone division, may work closely with Google Chrome, and we may see Chrome phones from Google and Motorola in the future. That way, current Android OEMs need not be very concerned about Google and Motorola working secretly on Android phones.
That's a really interesting take. That line between, there is 2 operating systems from Google. Why not throw on a phone?
And they are very clear that they don't put Chrome OS on tablets.
Right.
Well, actually, or do they?
Well, it's actually, there's a version of Chrome on tablets, but it's not Chrome OS. It's just the browser.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Chrome browser is on Android, on Jelly Bean and higher.
Oh, no. I'm talking about Chrome OS.
Yeah.
Isn't there a Chrome OS tablet?
There was a demo video of that, but that hasn't
come out.
No.
So they've been very clear up to this point that Chrome OS is for computers, laptops, and desktops, and Android is for tablets and phones. So that would be a huge step for them to take to try to put Chrome OS on a phone, and I don't think it would work very well. it could be a disaster.
Mozilla's trying it with Firefox OS.
Yeah, but that's different. They're building, something from the ground. They're basically like doing Android. It's not taking a browser and using it as an operating system that I object to. It's the idea that Chrome OS is actually built for laptops and desktops, and you would have to change it markedly. And why would you spend all that time changing it markedly to work on a phone when you've already got a phone operating system?
Well, would that be, I don't know. I guess the point of the email is that if they wanted to work around this, impenetrable fire moat that they've apparently put between.
Yeah, but the OEMs are not going to
Android.
get mad because it's Chrome OS? Like, oh, well, that one sucks, so we're not going to get mad about that.
Well, I mean, listen, I think
it's not the operating system. It's the fact Google's directly competing with it.
Yeah, well, I think, listen, it's the time to be an OEM may not be, now. If we look at how Microsoft's treated theirs and Google, I think, increasingly is going to put themselves in a position, depending on whatever they do with Motorola, if they don't sell it for parts, if they keep it intact in some way, they will, at some point, come to more of a head with their OEMs. That's just a fact.
All right, that's it for this episode of Tech News Today. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for submitting stories in our subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com. We look at that every day when we figure out what stories we want to cover. It's the signal, if we want to talk like Google's. It's the signal of what you guys might want to hear us talk about. So go in there
It looks
and vote
a little like a bat signal up
and
there.
submit stories. Yeah, it does. It looks really good. Thanks to all the mods in there that work so hard to keep that clean and looking great. And thank you, Justin Robert Young, for joining us, man. It's good to have you along.
It's always great to be here. I think this is the first time I've been here with the full team. Usually,
is that right?
Yeah,
so.
somebody's out for some reason.
Jason, make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah, we didn't schedule this right.
Noted.
But yeah, thank you very much for having me on, Justin R. Young on Twitter, or apparently it just fell out after spending 2 weeks in the top 10 of the iBook store, but you can still go get Patricia Harkins Bradley's debut novel, The Diamond Club. Speaking of great reviews on iTunes.
It's nice of you to plug that lady's novel.
She's a good friend.
Yeah. All right, we will be back tomorrow. I won't be back tomorrow, though. I'm off until Monday, but these guys will be holding down the fort. You can find us, as always, at twit.tv/TNT. You can email us, our email address, tnt@twit.tv, or give us a call. Leave us voicemail. Our number is 260-TNT-SHOW. Even though I won't be here tomorrow, Eric Bush of Planet Xbox 360 will be here to join Sarah and Iyaz. We'll see you then.